Reporting climate change is, especially on radio, is something that is most effective when you talk about being able to inform people about the reality of climate change, because you still have people who believe that climate change does not exist, there's nothing like it, that what we have around us is God doing things in his own way. So using radio, especially my own personal reporting of climate change, has really helped to increase the awareness level among the citizenry. And I also believe that not only my personal effort, Radio Nigeria has other reporters who have been reporting issues of climate change. Cumulatively, our effort has contributed in making more people to get to know about the reality of climate change.
So radio has to be seen as yeah, because our for all, one who is transiting, one who is embracing, one who is adapting, the other person who is coming in freshly on board has to see radio as a platform for which his voice will be heard, for which he or she will understand better. This policy. Radio has to see itself as a medium, for convergence as regards to climate change, climate advocacy, climate action.
In form of flooding, in form of droughts, and other things like that. But take flooding for instance. Radio becomes almost the only available medium of passing information, disseminating information to people who are in distress as a result of flooding, because flooding affects network, that's power sources. Power supply is disrupted. Even network connectivity might not be available again as a result of flooding. But the only thing that is available to people during flooding is this radio. So radio is a veritable tool, is a veritable medium when you want to disseminate information during disaster, and that has happened severally in Nigeria. I've witnessed that officials of state emergency management agencies, officials of national emergency management agencies, using the radio stations across the state to get information across to people on what to do, how they can get evacuated during this emergency. So radio is a veritable tool, a veritable medium you can use when you have people in disaster and to communicate information during disaster. So it has really proven effective, and in fact in some occasions the only available medium to use to reach people who are in distress.
You cannot separate them, because radio as a medium is that medium that is able to reach the ordinary man, that medium that is able to reach the not so reachable parts of the world.
Good thing for me in the sense that you still see that people still depend on radio, especially people that are affected by some of these spin-offs of climate change. You talk of flooding and all that. So when people suffer from flooding, and you want them to really know why is flooding, what is making flooding to come perennially like we now have it. Flooding might not have been caused by climate change, but the frequency of it is informed by interruptions that climate change has brought about. So people coming on radio, using radio now, using the simple language, because climate change is full of jargons that people ordinarily may not understand. But as a radio journalist, as a broadcaster, we make sure that intentionally we break these jargons down for people to be able to relate with happenings around them and realities around them. Because climate change is not just happening. There are signs around us that shows that climate change indeed is real. You see that rains are not falling the way they are supposed to fall. You see a cessation of even rainfall when you do not expect it to happen, leading to drought and all that. So these are issues of climate change that you need simple language, relatable language that people will be able to understand and get informed that indeed climate change is real.
Even the climate crisis in itself is one phenomenon that is being challenged in this part of the country, in this part of the world rather, because of the cultural beliefs that we have. Now when, like I was giving the example of the drought incident in north southern Nigeria, this drought to be precise, the climate crisis was not seen as a climate crisis. It was perceived as, the some kind of mystical powers standing against the communities, and so yeah, they had to go the cultural way. So yeah, it may not necessarily resonate with them in the kind of way we may want to think, but or understand it scientifically. But then, with the aid of radio reporting, awareness is being created, and farmers are beginning to understand that some of those things are not just mere occurrences, but something scientific is responsible for what is for their experience.
Radio you don't have all the time. Radio expects you to be very brief and concise with the use of data. So you have this problem of how do you now get this load of data that you have to become so brief, brief and concise for people to be able to understand what you are reporting on radio. So that could be a very big challenge that you need expertise, you need competence to be able to handle. The issue of government policy is also another thing, because sometimes we are reaching policy formulation, but we are not as rich in policy implementation. So sometimes if you are not very familiar even with policy changes, because as government come, there are changes in policy, and they are adding some things to the national climate change policy. We have even the act on climate change, we have the national plan on climate change and all that. This changes with time, and so it takes a journalist, a broadcaster, a climate change enthusiast who is really in touch with these realities to be able to inform people and get people convinced about the reality of climate change. So being able to follow up